Welcome back to College Football Addiction. We've got Gerry Hamilton here on Texas football, a college football playoff matchup between Arizona State and Texas. And pretty excited for this one. A lot of people kind of think it's going to be a laugher, but let's kind of break it down and talk through it. First of all, let's talk about the seeding of this thing. Let's be pretty real about this. Georgia and Ohio State win their conference championships. Texas and Penn State lose them, and they get somehow the easier matchups in this thing. Can we talk about seeding a little bit? I know this benefits Texas, so certainly Texas folks are not shedding any tears. But thoughts on just the way this playoff is set up?
Well, the 5 and 6 has been the place to be the whole way. Once you saw how that the highest 4-seeded ranked teams weren't going to be the ones getting byes in the first round, because it's weird that college football playoff they have their ranking where Texas is number 3 on their rankings, but only the 5 seed. Well, the 5 and 6 are where you wanted to be. That's the wheelhouse, because you have to play the extra game. So there's merit to having a bye and getting healthier that extra 7 or 8 days. In some cases, maybe 10. But look, if being a 5 seed or being 6 Penn State, you get a favorable first round matchup at home, and then you're playing either the G5 or in this case the Big 12 champ in a neutral site. And I mean, that's greatly beneficial to Penn State and Texas. I mean, so being the 5 or 6 has been the wheelhouse. You do have to play the extra game. But, TJ, when you talk to we have former players, Brian Robeson that played on the Texas national championship team and played in the NFL for 12 years. Rod Babers, one of our partners on Texas football, was an all Big 12 player at Texas, played in the NFL. They say you don't want 20 days off. You want to play. You don't want to sit like a bowl game for a month. If it's a one-game season, that's different. But so you're sitting for 20 days, and other guys are playing a week earlier. I think Texas has an advantage over Arizona State this week because of that as well, because they just went out and put up 500 yards and 38 points, even though it was a home game against Clemson, who's a more talented team than Arizona State. I mean, so Texas comes in with some flow. They just rushed for 294 yards, and Arizona State's sitting there thinking about it for 20 days. They hadn't been in this position before. Maybe if you're a Grizzly experienced team and then you needed that extra time to get really healthy, it would make a difference. But the 5 and 6 has been the wheelhouse once these brackets came out and you saw this thing was going to break.
So Arizona State, certainly a fun story. They've certainly been a fun team to root for or cheer for. I can't imagine too many Texas fans are rooting for them now, but they've been a good story. Kenny Dillingham is a ton of fun. He was at Florida. He was here at Florida State for a while, and we loved him. And so he is incredibly fun to root for just in college football in general. And they've had some success. They obviously played really well in their Big 12 championship game. It all kind of starts and ends with Scadaboo, their running back. How much success can he have against one of the best defenses in college football?
Well, that's really going to be their everything for Arizona State. And I want to echo what you said. I love Kenny Dillingham, arguably the best young coach in college football. That's, that under 45 group, right? Tremendous coach, has done a great job at Arizona State. They were picked last in the Big 12. They're in the college football playoff. They won the Big 12. I mean, they were 3-9 a year ago. He's got some really young, exciting guys on that staff, like Brian Carrington, who I knew a little bit from when he was at Texas as over recruiting, who's done a great job as a corners coach there. They have a lot of kids from Texas. There's a lot of familiarity for me, guys that either were at Texas and transferred to Arizona State or guys that played high school football in Texas and are at Arizona State now. And I think they've done a great job. Look, I thought they upgraded quarterback when Sam Leavitt came in. He's a really good player. But to your question, in this game in particular, it starts and ends with Scadaboo, because here's the reality. In their losses, he had 18 for 60 at Texas Tech. They fell behind. At Cincinnati, Leavitt was hurt. They lost 24-14. He had 17 for 75. You look at another game they played in Texas against Texas State early in the season, 24 for 62, and that was a late win by Arizona State. They've won a lot of close games, tip of the cap to them. But, there's a number out there. It's 99 yards right now for Cam Scadaboo. If he doesn't get close to that, Arizona State's in trouble. I mean, because if they can't possess the football in this game, then the odds of them stopping Texas over the course of the game aren't very high, in my opinion. I mean, look, they played 3 top 25 offenses this year, Arizona State. They're giving up 30 a game, and that's Texas State, Texas Tech, and UCF. And I think we both agree that's not Texas. So they have to possess the football and grind the clock and keep the possessions low. And to your point, can they do that against the Texas front?
Yeah,
And it's been tough to do this season for anybody.
yeah, Scadaboo was so much fun. He was, I mean, that Big 12 championship was
Awesome.
incredible to watch him. Just, I mean, I think he's still bouncing off Iowa State
Yeah.
defenders. However, it's just hard to see him having that level of success against a Texas defense that is just so much better than Iowa State's. Like, let's not kid ourselves. No discredit to the Cyclones, but man, I don't think wrapping up is going to be Texas's like major downfall, right? And so I almost wonder, and not no disrespect again to their other weapons, which they do have. They went in one without their best wide receiver in the Big 12 championship, and they were throwing the ball all over the place. Almost wonder if the Texas strategy is to, kind of like they used to do with Steph, right? Like, hey, we'll let Steph get off, but no one else is getting anything, or we're going to take Steph away and see if everybody else can beat us.
I think they're gonna try to take Scatabo away, but I don't think they're gonna sit there and do it with 7-man boxes either, though. That's not really PK's style at Texas. And I'm not sure they have to, honestly. And I'm probably just motivating the hell out of Arizona State. But if they have my motivation, they're losing the game anyways. That's what I've been saying on Texas Football YouTube channel. If they're looking for my motivation with my score prediction, then they're already beat. Okay, because that's way down the list. But I think Texas can play them with a lighter box and affect the run. The key with Scatabo is, and I think he's going to play in the NFL. I think he's a tremendous player. One of probably my top 2 or 3 favorite players to watch in college football because of the toughness, just a rugged toughness. Nobody wanted him out of high school. People thought he was a slow linebacker, and look at the guy now. If you turn him east and west, though. So if Texas wins in the A and B gaps, that's a game changer against Scatabo because he's not the guy that's going to bounce it and turn on the jets and get to the edge outside the numbers on you. He's got to have success in between the numbers and really in between the hashes to have maximum success. And I just don't know if Arizona State can win enough up front for that to happen in this game. That's the challenge. Because if Texas can win, and I call it a light box, 5.5, 6-man box, if they can hold him to 75-ish yards with a lighter box, then Arizona State's in trouble without Jordan Tyson.
Is there any concern or is there any worry about not necessarily a look ahead because you don't know the opponent, but any concern around just taking an opponent lightly? Everyone singing all your praises. And again, if you're relying on what the outside world is saying, then maybe you should be a little more focused on other stuff. But everyone thinks you're going to go in and steamroll. Everyone thinks you're going to win. No one gives any credit to them. Everybody's already talking who's Texas going to face off with, Oregon or Ohio State, which is maybe the game of the playoffs, right? But, is there any concern about a letdown there because of the fact that everyone expects you to go and win and Arizona can kind of just go play this underdog role?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot like the Clemson game. I mean, Clemson was us against the world mentality. Dabo's great at it. Cade Klubnik, a really good player. They had better weapons than Arizona State for Klubnik. They didn't have a run game, but they had better weapons, better offensive line. But Texas gave Clemson their best shot, and Clemson gave Texas their best shot. I don't think Texas, this is an experienced football team. Quinn Ewers has started 30 games now at this point. You have Makuba, played in a lot of big games. This is a very experienced team. Barron Sorrell, Michael Taft, Jahdae Barron, the Thorpe winner. Even your younger guys like Anthony Hill's now 25 starts in as a college player. This is not an offensive line. I mean, who knows how many starts they have combined. I haven't even counted it up since midway through the season. But, I mean, the center, Jake Majors, will be starting, I believe it's his 56th game, most in Texas history. This is a very experienced team. And I think it's a very mature team in the way they think, because I don't think you go and people say, well, Texas didn't have the best schedule out there in the SEC. Okay, well, the teams they played are 4-2 in bowl games now. Okay, and only A&M and Oklahoma gagged them, right? I mean, it takes the rivals that blow up the perfect record.
Choke jobs, which I'm sure Texas fans didn't mind.
No, that was pretty good. There's some good tweets out there, including one from me.
I thought you had a good one. Yeah.
But look, I think Texas is a mature team. I think they're a focused team. And the reality is, you know what? They've been beat twice by Georgia, who's been carried the same focus. And even in Austin had more focus than Texas. I mean, they were really focused for that game. So I like where Texas sits. I don't think they're overlooking Arizona State. I think if you have a mature team, when you get to this point, this is all about business. And you respect every opponent. And you know what I think? from a defensive perspective really helped Sarkisian and this staff this week, TJ, is they didn't play great on defense last week against Clemson. I guess it's a little over a week ago. There's some coaching points there for the linebackers and in coverage, right? And I'm not sure Arizona State can exploit it, but they'll try. But then when you turn on the film, you see Scatabo running over people, and you're like, yeah, that we want some of that if you're a competitor, right? That fires up the Texas defense. And I think Texas is going to be ready to play. They're also returning the Mercedes-Benz where they let one get away. Like, people got to remember that, too. The last time they were there wasn't that long ago, and they dropped the SEC title game to Georgia in a game that, I mean, I think outside of Texas, even some fans outside of the Texas fan base said, yeah, you know what, Texas probably should have won that game. Sark's got a lot of things to motivate his guys this week.
The offensive side of the ball, does the little bit of a lull, did it feel like they went away from the run game? Is it kind of just a, hey, we let our foot off the gas because we were up by so much? Does the Clemson comeback kind of give you pause, or is it kind of like what you just said, some pretty teachable stuff like, hey guys, let's, we may get a big lead in this one. Let's not have this repeat twice.
Yeah, I think the offensive line injury slowed them down in that game a little bit because, they lost the starting center, Jake Majors, and they lost the right tackle, Cam Williams. And when they lost Cam Williams, him and DJ Campbell on the right side, I think Texas averaging 12, 13 yards a pop off the right side to where Clemson had to change the game plan. So they lost two starting offensive linemen and Trey Weiser. They didn't play him really in the second half of that game outside the first series because they felt like they were in control of the game, and they got Jaden Blue going on the outside wide zone stuff in the run game. So look, defensively, that was the first time this year Texas is defensively. As a Texas fan, you probably watched that game and said, Oregon might score 35 on us. So it was more defensive than offensive in that game because they mounted some drives. They made some really good throws. They made some high-level catches. That young receiver corps, Clemson, they're all three of those guys are future draft picks. So I think Clemson really made some plays, but Texas got lost in coverage at times too, more than Texas not running the football as much. I think it's just kind of how the game played out with the injuries on the offensive line that I think Texas had to reset themselves a little bit and say, all right, let's go win this thing how we built the lead.
Yeah. It never felt like it was in question, even if Clemson, as soon as they cut it to one score, obviously Blue takes off for a massive run. And then even when Clemson had the 4th and 1, that credit to Texas, they were able to stop. Even if they'd have scored that, right, they would have needed another stop, another score, and then another stop too, right? Like you would have had to stop Texas 3 more. And it was close. It was fun. It was more fun than any other game that we got to watch last week, but it never felt like it was in doubt. It never felt like it was, you're one play away. They were like 3 plays away from, maybe getting a chance to win. And so, all right, we do this every time. So finally you're at a point now where you're not on an 0-2 streak when you're on here. So maybe the Texas fans will tune into this one and give us some love. But
you had me on against Georgia the first 2 times.
Yeah.
No, but look, I'm out on the twig on this, dude. But I'm real with my prediction, and you know what? If I'll take some heat if it's not close, but I've said 52-23. And look, I don't think Texas is going to come out and go be 38-0 at halftime. I don't think that. I just think over the course of the game, if Arizona State can't run it and possess the clock and cut down the possessions, then this game can get away from Arizona State. Because if Texas has a lot of possessions, how many times is Arizona State going to stop them unless Texas stops themselves? Which Texas has done. But here's the other thing I look at with this game, though, where Arizona State has to really come up with a plan, and they've had 20 days, they will have by the time the game's played. They're outside the top 100 in sack rate and QB pressure rate in college football this year.
Yeah.
If they can't get pressure on Texas on Quinn Ewers, how are they going to stop Texas?
Yeah.
I mean, how are they going to stop them enough for Texas not to score 38-45 offensive points in this game? I mean, and this is the one time, too, from a kicking standpoint, I mean, Arizona State has been they haven't been good kicking field goals this year. They haven't been good in the kicking game this year. I mean, Kenny Dillingham pretty much called it out in a press conference. So I've looked at this, and I love Kenny Dillingham. I think they've done an amazing job. I said Scatabo is one of my favorite players. I think Sam Levitt has a chance to play pro football one day. The Jordan Tyson injury is big. But I keep looking at this, TJ, I'm like, they've played 4 bowl-eligible teams this year, Arizona State has. The record in the regular season of teams they played were 64-80. I mean, I can't. I'm trying to find things in this game outside of Texas turns it over. Maybe Arizona State. He just Scatterbo puts the cape on and goes 40 for 180 in this game, and they just possessed the ball. But they weren't able to do that against Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Texas State. They did it against Iowa State, but you mentioned Iowa State's 105th in run defense in college football. There's nothing I look at in this game and say Texas, because the talent level, shouldn't pull away in the second half of this game. And so I'm at 52-23, and I know I'm out there on this little twig, and I'll get called out forever if it ends up being a 10-point game or something. But I think Texas has to beat themselves in this game. That's just the way I feel.
Well, the way it works out is based on when the game happens. You can very easily just say, "Hey, that was last year. We're focused on 2024, and don't leave last year's predictions in last year if it doesn't work out." But I like it.
I'll own it.
I like the bold prediction. Hey, I think too often people that are in kind of our roles are somewhat humble with their predictions, and they say, "Oh well, I expect it to be a dogfight and." Give me 34-24 or whatever, So, no, I like it. I like Texas to cover.
I picked 34-20 last week for Clemson. So I was close. I was over the target a little bit. So I'm feeling overconfident right now.
I like it. When this is the actual score, I can't wait for the clips to be posted. So, or when it's very close. But where can people follow you for more content, more coverage of the game leading up to and then afterward?
Yeah, on Texas Football YouTube channel. Bobby Burton, myself, Rod Babers, CJ Vogel, our team there. We have an interview up with Mac Brown, former Texas coach, North Carolina coach. Just sat down with Bobby Burton for a 35-minute interview. That's great stuff there if you're a college football fan. He talks about the state of college football on Texas Football YouTube. Thanks as always for having me, man. It's a blast.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the bold prediction as always. I didn't even have to ask for one. And man, we'll link all that in the description. Go check them out, guys, and we appreciate your time. Good luck and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.